because it was just like, it was, you know, like, I would say, like, if someone had made a mistake that I wouldn't expect them to make, I would be like, well, you seem like an intelligent person. The implication being, well, so what the fuck were you doing? Do you know what I mean? You would never say that to someone as an observation or a compliment, because it just sounds, yeah, like these little things you don't realise until you're actually here amongst Americans and that you are quite different.
I guess we are different, aren't we?
Yeah, but you really do love everything, which is ironic because you also bomb everything.
And we hate everything.
I know.
I hate you. We'll hate you we'll hate something in a minute.
Yeah,
you know what? I hate broccoli.
No, you probably don't. You probably dislike it.
I hate it.
No, it probably doesn't taste particularly pleasant. You don't really want to raise an army and drive broccoli into the sea. That's what you do when you hate something.
But we hate it.
No, but hate.
And we want to drive it into the sea.
Yeah, see, it's crazy. Like hate and love are like big things. Do you know? Like if you love something, you would take a bullet for it.
Yeah.
You don't take a bullet for puppies or cheese.
No,
or
that's here. They do here.
Yeah, well,
they would love their what? Try to run up on some of them people. You see them people walking their dog?
Yeah, we
try to attack that dog, boy. Not only will they fight you, some people who don't even know them will come to help.
But the thing that I find really edifying is a human being can drop dead on the street.
Oh, and nobody will walk right in New York, especially. They'll walk right over you.
Just.
That's crazy, right?
But don't touch Fido.
No.
That makes sense.
Well, look, I'll show you something. You go to the slaughterhouses, the farms, especially those industrial type slaughterhouses, they treat the animals horrific.
Yeah.
Michael Vick has a few dog fights. Man, they would be picking in his house and everything. Doesn't make sense, because you're mad at him for fighting a few dogs, and y'all like slaughter things till they go extinct.
Yeah. No, people. There was a documentary out. What was it called? But it was basically just about what humans do, and people were so horrified, like the way that people treat animals and the environment and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that's shocking here is the disposability of everything. Like when you go to get your takeaway food or something, like you always get heaps of napkins and heaps of plastic cutlery and all of that kind of crap. And then when you say no, like people are like, what? I'm like, well, I've got steel ones I can use at home and not fuck up the environment with a million. Anyway, let's do this thing.
And they're supposedly trying to get away from that.
They're not doing a very good job. But they love to try.
They love to try, that's right.
They love to try, because if you don't have something to hate and try against, what are you going to do?
You gotta have something to love. You gotta have something to hate.
Otherwise, it's just going to be Fox News and...
Right, and you gotta have something that you're trying to do that you know you cannot do. Because we love doing shit that we know we can't do now.
God bless America.
I'm telling you, man. It's off the hook. Like, they know they can't run across that street before the light changes, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Oh no, I can empathize with that, because I just hate standing there like a moron for 10 minutes waiting for the little man to change. All right, I have quite a few questions for you, actually.
Oh, you got them written down. That's deep.
Well, like these are things that I want your answer on because I feel I trust it.
Okay.
One thing that I've seen on the internet quite a bit is people who claim to be 5%ers, but you can never tell, that think that the Quran is a unit of time. Have you ever come across that?
Depends on what you're talking about. If you're in the 5% nation, the Quran is a unit of time for you.
Right, and
us.
And what does that mean?
Okay. When you look at, first of all, you'd have to go, if you're in the 5% nation, you can go to the first degree and the 1 to 40, who made the Holy Quran or Bible, how long ago will you tell us why Islam renewed its history every 25,000 years? They're not that question and those answers. W.B. Farad asked the question, Elijah answered it. When you go into the degree itself, you find out that they're not talking about the big Quran of Mecca that Muhammad.
Yeah.
They're talking about the zodiac. That's why it's a 25,000 year cycle. Every 25,000 years, the sun rotates the galaxy. So every constellation, the same way the planet Earth goes through constellations in 12 months,
Right.
the sun goes through constellations in 25,000 year cycles.
Right. So you're talking about the rotation of the galaxy
The rotation of the sun,
within the galaxy.
yes.
And so just as the zodiac, so it's like a macrocosmic zodiac of the galaxy.
Right, so
It
every
cycles
2,083.33 years, the sun passes through one of the constellations. Like in Jesus' time, they were in Pisces,
Right.
and now we're at the cusp of Aquarius. So it takes 100 years for it to pass all the way through the cusp. So we're in the cusp now of
Right.
that 100-year cycle.
Right. So so over 25,000 years, which is one Quran.
Right.
That's
and we're in the 24th Quran now. Now, prior to us doing 25,000 year cycles, the planet Earth and the sun and our solar system was in a different position in the galaxy, and it was a 35,000 year cycle.
Right.
So now we're in a 25,000 year cycle based on 120.
Right. And wouldn't that run contrary to a notion of an expanding universe? Because if the universe is expanding, then it would stand
But
to
the
reason.
universe is not the galaxy. The universe is the sun, moon, and stars. That's all of them.
No, but this is what I'm thinking. Like, you're talking about the movement of the sun within the galaxy.
Right.
And
rotating around our Milky Way.
Yeah, and that rotation.
Well, we don't see the expanding of the universe the way the Europeans teach it.
Right.
They teach that galaxies are all over the place, and in between galaxies is empty space. But Hubble doesn't say that. When you take up cosmology itself,
Right.
it says it's more like a giant spider web.
Okay.
And they're all connected. There's no like empty space in between this galaxy and this one. There's a galaxy here and a galaxy here per se, and then in between each galaxy is like a road of smaller clusters of galaxies,
Right.
stars. So that going from one galaxy to the next, you're not just going through empty space.
Is there empty space within galaxies?
There's empty space within everything.
Right.
But not the way they would make it. Like, you ever seen Star SG1 and all of them? And you notice how when that new one they got out with it, the universe, they have a spaceship that's traveling through the universe on its own.
Yeah.
And they're in it.
Yeah.
And in between galaxies, there's nothing but triple darkness.
Yeah, just
that's
like-
not true. And they know it's not true too. The scientists know that's not true.
Right.
Because the instruments we have nowadays allows us to see that it's not empty. If you want to see empty space, you have to get outside of starlight.
Right.
Because the stars are all fucking connected to each other. They're not sitting out there all by themselves. They're down together.
Right.
It's just that their distance from each other is far to us, but not to them.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the distance, there's a space between us, but it
Right.
doesn't mean that space is completely empty.
Right.
It's full of things that we can't see, which allow us to verbally communicate and all of that kind of stuff. And so there's the same kind of connection between astral bodies.
Right, and this is what Elijah taught in the theology of time, and this is what the Father had explained to Shamgar prior to Shamgar making the universal flag.
Yeah.
Because I have a degree where Shamgar is explaining how the Father explained to him the science behind cosmology, the science behind 1.618, 1.6.9, 0.0169, 3.314, 22/7. He used all of those different mathematical calculations calculations, which we call nowadays pi and phi, and they'll say the Fambino ratio or system and the golden ratio and all that, and they'll act like these so-called scientists discovered these things, but yet they'll say these things are in nature. So if you discover 1.618, you haven't really discovered something if it's part of nature. If prehistoric, extinct arachnids have that manifestation in them. If I could look at you and say, take the length of your arm and go from your shoulder to your fingertips, and then go from your elbow to your fingertips and multiply that and come up with 1.618. That you didn't discover that, son. That's nature.
Right.
And if the pyramids are based on that as their structures are built, then how did you discover it now? If ancient people were using it prior to the modern historical data.
All right, this actually leads into another question that I wanted to ask you, so it's really good. Thanks.
I could see it jumping off.
Yeah, I need to discuss with you the ideas of the nation with respect to science a little bit more. Like, from what you're saying, it sounds like knowledge is there and it isn't discovered as much as manifests itself to our intellect. Like, how is the discovery of a mathematical ratio different to the discovery of putting pieces of metal and fossil fuels together in a certain way that you get a combustion engine?
Because that's not just done in nature.
Right. Okay, so if we talk about the unnatural science, okay, so if we talk about not the mathematical relationships that you can demonstrate or are manifest in nature, we're talking about the combustible
things that are man-made.
Yeah, the man-madeness. The gods talk about science a lot.
Yes.
And
but they're mostly talking about natural science.
Yeah, but then they talk about, like, in the interviews that I've done, they talk particularly about resolving intractable problems through consensus. So they, like, if they don't know and the mathematics doesn't reveal it to them,
maybe it's not revealing it to them, but then there's always someone
who
does know, and they'll ask them.
Yeah, and if there's conflict, they try and reach a consensus. And that's very similar to the scientific method. And a lot of people have said that, like, observing things is proof positive. Now that to me suggests that there's a certain degree of respect or faith in science.
Yes, it is.
Now, I personally don't share that.
Okay.
I look around at the products of science and I see them alienating people from one another.
Well, you got to look at it from our point of view. We're not talking about academics in the science world. We're talking about the actual science itself.
No, this is what I mean, like the fruits of science. Like, when I see an iPod, it actually makes me sad, because it's a way of creating a little bubble around you so that you don't have to bother with other
but that wouldn't be
beings.
considered science to us.
So
that would be technology.
Right. Okay.
We wouldn't look at that as science. Science to us would be sun, moon, stars, quasars, pulsars, black holes, time continuum.
No, that's really helpful. So
that's why we would go. That's why, if you ever notice, you see when I went right to the first degree and the 1 to 40, I said the 25,000 year cycle, the sun traveling around the universe.
No, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Allah has said, and a number of people have said, the truth is free.
Right.
And so if you're wanting to look to validate your scientific notions, you look to things that are observable in the sense that everyone can look at them and reach the same conclusion, like the mathematical ratios of the body.
Right. No matter what you do, that's going to come out. You can't, like, trick that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of famous optical illusions.
There are. But an optical illusion is an illusion. Like life itself is an illusion because the physical plane of existence isn't an illusion because it's here today and it's going tomorrow. It's constantly changing. It never stays the same. So that in its sense is an illusion also.
Right, and so the eternality of numbers is the sort of foundation of an ever-changing reality.
Yeah, like I got this paper I carry around because I'm always doing formulas. Man, one of the formulas I like to play with is the one where you use the numbers. Like you said, illusions, but in numbers, it's hard to really create an illusion, more so a pattern.
Right.
So, like if you do that, I know you learned this. We call it the Asiatic sequence.
Right.
But they gave the
Fibonacci.
Yeah, they gave it to him.
Yeah.
But in nature, the Fibonacci sequence is also dealing with the golden ratio.
Yep.
Okay, and those type of scientific manifestations, I don't have to leave nature to see them.
No.
You have to leave nature to see a camcorder.
Right.
You have to leave nature to do an iPod.
Yep.
Because in nature, music and sounds that are on your iPod may be in nature, but the iPod is not in nature. You hear the sounds naturally.
Right. No, that makes a lot more sense.
So even on the, like you could say that's an illusion. 0, 1, and then 1. So 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 3 is 5, 5 and 8 is 13, and you just keep going on up.
Right.
In a way, that's kind of like an illusion also. But it's an illusion that is not eluding itself from you.
Yeah.
Where when I got on Gmail those illusions, those optical illusions.
Yeah.
See, optical illusion.
No, because I just think to myself, like, if you believe, if you think that seeing is believing, and you can see two things in one object, or you can see water that's not there.
What about the degree that says, don't believe everything you see, and believe only half of what you hear.
Combat vet, United States Army, spare change or a buck.
Oh, we broke today, brother.
Sorry.
Caught us on a bad day.
Alright,
No problem. Where were we at? Oh God, he threw my whole thought off.
The like optical illusions.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
When you look at those optical illusions that they show us, mostly they're flat. And the illusion is to make it appear to be 3D. Almost like when we go to a movie. It looks 3D. That's an illusion because it's not. It's flatter than a pancake.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like perspective things. Mm-hmm. Like when you can look at a picture of a woman and she's an old haggard woman or a
oh yeah, I know about that one. Yeah. It has all them little skeletons in it.
Yeah,
and
like,
all that. Those are illusions too.
No, but they're also not. Like they're an illusion because of where you choose to focus.
Of course.
And so I suppose like the thing that I want to sort of talk about or think about out loud with you is if you can choose to focus on one thing and get one result with your perception, or choose to focus on another thing and get another result with your perception.
People do it all the time.
But then how can you believe, like, how can so many of these gods believe that seeing is believing?
Well, they don't believe in seeing is believing because they don't deal with belief. That's one of the basic structures of our teachings is belief is doubt. Because you could believe it to be true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. You just believe it to be. We deal with actual facts and solar facts. That shit ain't an actual fact and a solar fact. It's not going to pass the muster. You may, as an individual, say you believe that, but when you stand before that parliament and that universal rally, that shit better be an actual fact, or nobody's going to bear witness. You'll be standing there by yourself saying that shit is real.
Right.
Because it's an illusion.
Yeah.
You think it's real or you believe it to be real because belief and faith and all of that is dealing with things like it's not necessarily so. Like I believe that, like we could just say, I believe that this person is a good person, but that may not be true. They may be a good person to you. They might be a mass murderer, but to you, they treat you right. They like you. They treat you very good. So to you, they're a good person, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's so. And in actual fact, we're showing proof that it ain't when we do the whole background check, when we look at the whole picture and not just the part that you focusing in on.
Right.
Well, that's how basic teaching.
Yeah, no,
We never say, you will never hear nobody that's true and living and know and understand this say, well, I believe this, or I believe not. They're going to either deal with, I know it to be a fact, or I don't know, and I'm doing my research. I'm going to the lab to figure it out. They would never say they believe in something. That's why they don't deal with religion, because religion is a belief system. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. You believe it is. Now you got to deal with faith. That means I got to base my shit on something that I can't prove it, disprove it, or prove it.
Well, okay, this is like, there is no practical application that is, there is no practical application with any exactitude for mathematics. For example, if I get 2 apples, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. And so you would arguably assert that 1 apple plus a second apple is 2 apples. And therefore that is an affirmation of maths, right? But you cannot get 2 exactly the same apples. And so as soon as you take the theoretical 1 plus 1 equals 2 and you give it a practical reality, 2 apples, you've departed from that truth.
Depending on how you see it.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Like
The apples aren't the same, but the properties are.
But this is the thing. So you either have to subscribe, that is, believe in an essentialism where an apple is an apple, and there is something that makes apples and not oranges, right? Or you have to start standardizing an apple in that sort of mathematical, empirical way.
Well, to me, you know, and I would say just like Messiah would say, he would say that's a European way of thinking.
How?
That's exactly what he would have said. He said that's how a European would think. They would say, well, these 2 apples ain't the same. And we would say, who gives a fuck? I could eat both of them.
But what? See, this is what I'm saying. Like the apples.
Because like there's 2 of us sitting here, and we definitely ain't the same. But you can't change the fact that on a level it's the same. What we do is we look at the commonality. Like this is 2 people sitting here. That's a fact. 2 different people. That's a fact. 2 humans. That's a fact. 2 earthlings. There's another fact. One is European. One is Asiatic. Those are facts.
See, this I challenge that.
Okay, challenge it.
And the reason that I challenge that is, and please, like, this is completely theoretical. Okay?
It's all good.
But there have been instances in history, right, where, and I think it was even legislated that because you're an Asiatic man, you are 2/3 of a human, or 3/5.
That was one time they had that in the Constitution. That was the United States of America.
But I'm just saying, like, some people who misunderstand the racial teachings, right, of the group, or the teachings of the group that are misconstrued as racial, would say it's not 2 human beings, it's a god and a devil. This is what I'm saying. Like,
that depends on their level of understanding.
Of course.
Which that could be. They could say that too. It could be that too.
No, and I renounce the understanding that anyone is 3/5 of a human being. But the point I'm making is that those things aren't contingent on facts; they're contingent on beliefs.
Yes, they are.
And so, if you believe those things, this is what I'm saying. Like, if this mathematical principle, or these mathematical principles, govern the entire universe, then there shouldn't be as much room for the import of belief when these things become practical realities.
Well, I would say this: when absolute science is absolute, mathematics is what it is. It's the understanding that people have from it, or it changes when you have it and when I have it. Depend on based on your accumulated facts. If you have a 16-year education and I have an 8-year education, we could read the same book and not come up with the same assumptions based on education alone.
But I don't. But I would agree with that. But I would never ever state that that someone else's opinion is in complete factual error.
Right.
And
unless it is.
No, but see, I wouldn't, because simply because of that contextually bounding of the person.
Well, it would depend on what they said. If they had 2 apples and they said, okay, this is 1 and this is 2, and now I have 2 apples, that's a fact. And then if they went to the assumption of you saying, well, these 2 apples aren't exactly the same, that's a fact too. And you got to realize that in the universe, all truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be recounted. That's a fact.
Like, I think it's called sensory aphasia. I can't remember though, but there's a specific name for it. There's a psychiatric or psychological brain physiological thing that happens, and it's incredibly rare. But people smell sights. Okay. So like when someone sees the color orange, they have their sensory reaction is smell. Okay. And they taste smells. Okay. And they have all of the sensory faculties you and I have, but
like Wolverine is heightened.
Yeah, but the thing, like, when they hear music, they can smell it. They don't hear it.
Makes me think of Heroes.
Yeah, but like I can't.
She could see the music.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, I can't see music, but I can't say that no one can
see it.
No
okay, that's a fact.
So but isn't that my doubt? Isn't that me admitting that I have a limited ability to...
Well, the physical composition has a limited ability anyway. That's why you can't jump off the earth. You got to go to the bathroom. It must have oxygen. The physical composition is limited. Yes, I agree. It can't rise above 6. That's the teachings also. What it is you're trying, what I'm trying to let you see is the teachings of the 5% is not as circumscribed as people think they are. And they're not as dogmatic as people think they are, and they're not as linear as people think they are. They're not linear. They're more in a circle, at the same time being an 8, at the same time being linear, at the same time being in and out. They're all that at once, at one time. People may consider it a belief system if they're outside of it. They'll say, well, that's still a belief system. But inside of it, you would say it's not a belief system. So that's true too.
Because this is a very pivotal question when it comes to comparing Islam.
Well, the reason why I say that is because it's not because we deal with science and not religion and mathematics and things of that nature. Nothing is absolute, and we understand that being scientists. That's why we always say I got to go back to my lab and redo that again, or I need to renew my history, or I need to redo that experiment, because we know that in the universe, the only thing the only people that deal with absolute, or the only entity that actually deals with absolute, is the devil, because God never dealt with absolute, because if he did, then the universe wouldn't be chaotic and uniformed at the same time. It wouldn't be belligerent and soft.
There'd be no paradox.
Yes,
but the universe is fraught with paradox, and therefore, that I like very much.
That's why I could say, in the wisdom builder destroy degree, that's why I could say, in the wisdom myself divine cipher master, which is the second degree in the 1 to 10, it says who's the color man, and I can quote that. And then I can quote the first degree in the 1 to 10 and say who's the original man. And then you could talk to me and would say, That's not even absolute in your conversation then. True.
Yeah.
It's not, and it is.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the world is in the universe. The universe is and it isn't.
No. As I said, like these are things that I agree, but or personally I agree with. But it's
So I'm just trying to let you see how we see it.
That's what
so
I
you
need.
can say,
this is how you see it. Like I need.
Yeah, it's how I see it because it's not absolute. Like that's why I wrote down all these different. Like if someone looks at the golden rule and the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
When they look at them, if you're looking at them as words, you would say, well, that's two different things because one says ratio and one says sequence, but they're actually the same thing.
Yeah. No. That's much more useful. So, yeah. So there is a deceptiveness in the assertion, in the assertion that like mathematics is undyingly right and exact, because built into that is this appreciation of paradox, and that is in itself right and exact because paradox is everywhere. But more traditional sort of conceptions of mathematics that come from Greek philosophy, where exactitude refers to the resolution of paradox, is just not of interest. And so there is a piece in accepting constant flux and constant paradox.
Right.
And that the power of the mathematics is that it allows you to negotiate.
Right.
And
maneuver through it.
Through those paradoxes without them paralyzing you.
Yes, because you don't want to become like a computer and become a loop.
And then, so if you have this exact, non-paradoxical sort of idea of mathematics, you end up getting to a paradox and it defeating you, because that's the nature of paradox.
Right. It make you stay at 3.14
and
or 22/7 forever. You never move on.
No. That is, and you attribute that to a difference between European and Asiatic thinking. But that's good.
Yeah, because we don't want to think in absolutes, because I think that the devil thinks in absolutes and that God doesn't, just by looking at the universe. Because if the devil didn't think in absolute, when we go back to that story of Iblis, and Iblis said, I'm not going to bow down to man because man is made of mud and I'm made of fire. That's an absolute thought. You don't know that man is only made of mud. Man got fire too.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Right, but I'm just saying, you see how he thought in absolute, and thinking in absolute got him in absolute punishment.
No, and you see it with people, like even in terms of interpersonal relationships.
Right.
The people who are absolute are usually absolute buttfaces because they're closed-minded and thank you. They're closed-minded and arrogant, and it's unproductive. To deal with
because they're one way thinking and they're one way of seeing things, and instead of saying, well, let me look at it from the inside out or from the outside in.
And so if just on a personal level, if it's unproductive to deal with the absolute and unpleasant, then why would the system that governs the universe be any different?
Right.
No, that's something Nick is at peace with. That's fantastic.
That's why I think it's easier for us to get along with people who are religious, and it's not so easy for them to get along with us.
Because they've imbued their religion with this absolutism that doesn't belong there.
Oh, if you don't have Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're going to hell. That's an absolute. So Buddha, Confucius, Taoism, none of them are right and exact. They're all going to hell based on that. Damn, son, we all fucked that. Because if we look at the 4,400,000,000 people, I guarantee you 4,400,000,000 aren't Christian. There's no way they are.
No,
I'm just saying in general.
I agree with you.
It can't be that way. If that's the only absolute truth, then he didn't tell everybody.
Exactly. And even if you go, and if you take that like to the next step, if he is a manifestation of something that is all loving and all-knowing, he couldn't have not known to tell everyone, and he wouldn't have denied them that knowledge because he loves everything. And so there's this inherent paradox, which is not there to defeat religion, it's there to teach religion this humility, that there is no absolute and that there should be this...
And look at his parables don't say what they say.
Yeah.
His parables make you think that we're all on a upward scale of learning.
Yeah.
Everybody is. Man's God today is not his God tomorrow. As his God unfolds, he unfolds.
Yep.
So,
And so the 5% have cut out the middleman and said, let's focus on this capacity we have for knowledge. That's
and let's
fantastic.
teach it
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
free.
Yes, and use as our reference material the least obfuscating thing possible.
And let's try to help the people.
Universe that you can observe.
Yeah, we're going to help them go up instead of assisting them to go down. I mean, if they want to go down, that's their choice. So I won't assist you in falling, but I won't hinder you either.
No, that's.
I'm going to let you do what you want to do.
Yeah, well, maybe someone needs to do that.
Right.
Like, sometimes.
You don't know what their future holds for them, and they may need that experience for something that they're going to need to do 10 years down the line. You have no idea. Like Elijah said, he said, the reason why I'm teaching what I'm teaching is because there's people who have not even been born yet that need to know this, and they're not here yet to get it. But when I put it out in the ether and it's recorded and written down, they'll get it then.
Yeah, it's there for them. No, and that's fantastic. Like because I often think of some of the personal quote unquote mistakes that I've made, and I don't regret them. Like they might be considered mistakes in terms of what a system of laws developed by a group of other men decide, or whatever the case may be. But I think that they have taught me about humility and empathy, and they've taught me about my potential for doing the right thing and the wrong thing. And so, why would you divest yourself of those unpleasantnesses? Because
That's how we learn.
Exactly. No, that
Like I always say,
dripping with wisdom.
when I first started teaching I Self Lord and Master Islam, the Coach I God, the teachings of the Father, right? One part I learned was I had learned about polygamy, and it made me go a different route. In other words, I was basically striving to do it not so much for myself, but for the nation. Because I thought that would be one of the good ways to heal the nation. Because one man can live with 7 women easier than one man can live with 7 men. So I figured that would help the unification of the nation. But being that we're such a young nation and that the original man in North America is young in this new ideology of putting back his teachings that he lost from the 1555 colonization of us, it caused that relationship to break up. Right. Now, sometimes I look back and I say, hell, I should have just stayed with her and did the monogamy thing, and because these other bucketheads didn't make things any better for what went down. But at the same time, I'm saying that was something I needed to go through to get to where I'm at now. Because maybe if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't have took place, so this scenario wouldn't happen. Maybe the order would have still been the order, and I would have been doing it that way, and wouldn't been like a publishing firm. And, a lot of things that we did, like, that we do, and we may change the path.
Yeah.
Because that's what we choose to do. But it's not to say that it was good or bad. And I'm not saying that it was good or bad what I did. I'm just saying those experiences. Yeah, it was. It is. Absolutely. It happened. And I lived through it. And now I made these moves.
No, and this is one of the things that I find interesting about. And now that you've said it in terms of paradox and absolutism, like things like the theology of suffering preoccupies so many people. And yeah, like big figures, particularly in the Catholic tradition, like Thomas Aquinas. Mm-hmm. Why do we suffer? Mm-hmm. But the answer seems quite simple. Suffering is a thing that happens.
It happens.
And do you know what I mean? The suffering element of it is something that can be turned into something you've mastered and something that improves you and gives you a greater wisdom and allows you to pursue certain things that help other people and improve the situation. Or you can turn it into something that allows you to be a victim.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be this huge overarching sort of paradox that stops religion. Like people always say, well, if God exists and God loves me, why do I suffer? But if suffering makes you a better person,
then that's why.
exactly. Do you know what I mean? So
You answered your own question. You just didn't know you answered it.
yeah, because it's that absolutism. Well, if you're good is this thing that is absolute, and it means that you would not do this.
Right. And man is not absolute even in and of himself, because man is the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. He's the only being that is that way.
Yeah.
The angels, based on teachings, the angels aren't. They move when the Creator moves. They move right with him.
Yeah.
Animals move in with nature. Whatever nature dictates, that's how they move.
And that's arguably a manifestation of...
We can look at that and see that, but us, we can change the course of a river. You ever seen you might see a beaver change the course of a river within its own structure, but nothing like what we do.
Yeah, did you see that thing in China?
Right.
Gee, like that's, yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Those kind of things.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I really appreciate that. All right, at the Universal Parliament, there was quite a lot of talk about that led me to believe that there was a consensus that homosexuality is wrong.
Okay.
Within the nation.
Yeah.
It was quite strident. And I was just wondering if you could explain why that was the case.
Okay, now there's three things in that. One, the first thing would be the Father didn't teach us to be pro or anti.
Right.
Whatever the subject is. What we are is what is conducive to us. As a nation, the reason why we don't advocate homosexuality is because it's counterproductive for reproducing.
Right.
From a scientific point of view, based on genealogy from our observation, if all men dealt with only men and all women dealt with only women, in less than 100 years there would be no people on the planet Earth. So we look at it from that point of view.
Okay.
Now, if they want to go to Greenwich Village and be as an individual and do their thing, I really don't give a fuck, because I really don't care what you do.
Yeah, no. As I said, I'm just
individually.
Yeah, because I got the impression that it was related to a notion of family unit and
it is.
Things
it's
like that.
Based on that. It's based on family structure, the reproduction of children,
right.
The man, woman, children, that kind of
which is reflected in sort of your fundamental symbol.
Yes.
So
our teaching is our whole structure is man, woman, child. Yeah. So we can't go from man, woman, child to man and woman and woman. It's just not going to work with us.
But I got the impression that it would be frowned upon if you were in a family, and even if you had a family with 15 kids, and then you were getting, if you're a woman and you were getting a bit of pussy on the side.
Yeah, they wouldn't like that.
Yeah. Now, does that relate to monogamy, or does that? I mean, if the wife was getting, so if you fulfill your biological imperative, right, and you're still producing children, I got the impression that it was still frowned upon if you were having homosexual sex as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
They would shun you.
Why? Because you're still producing children. You're fulfilling your role as God or Earth.
Because now they're going to go into the morals and the principles of our basic teachings.
Right.
That mankind would not lay with man and womankind would not lay with woman. Those rules and regulations we've had.
I've seen movies that suggest otherwise.
I know, I have too. And I've seen people do other than that. But that's their own preference. In other words,
I'm kidding.
I'm saying, but it's a fact though.
Yeah.
We both seen it. Come on, we're in New York. You telling me you don't see it?
Yeah.
My thing is, my own personal preference and the nation's preference is pretty much the same when it comes to that subject matter. And if you're not in this nation and you do that,
it's your business.
Yeah, they basically don't give a fuck.
No, but you said that the father taught not to be pro or anti anything, but then you would get shunned if you did. We would say we ain't pro or anti it. You just can't do it here. Right. You could go out there and do whatever the fuck you want, but you can't do it in here. You can't do it in this nation. And so would it be fair to conceptualize it in terms of, like any citizenship in a nation, you have rights, but you also have responsibilities.
And rules and regulations that the society itself lays down. And if you don't like those rules and regulations,
Move to Pakistan.
you have the right to leave, and nobody's going to stop you. That's one thing about the nation.
Yeah.
You can leave anytime you want, and you can come back too.
Yeah, no,
Because I've seen people leave and come back 10 years later. Nobody said, "Oh, you ain't been around for 10 years. You ain't allowed in here."
Yeah.
They let you in. Come on. Long time no see. Where you been?
DJ, I was talking in my interview with DJ Weiss. He was saying that someone out in Queens had behaved. I think the word he used was barbarically, and he was excluded.
Not only that, I know somebody in Virginia that did some questionable things on a male-female, but man-child relation type.
Right.
Which is considered kind of like pedophile. Like, it didn't get to the degree where it was actually pedophiling.
But it was enough to be...
But it was close enough to make him get exiled.
Yeah, because it would violate one of the sort of protected
Yeah, like how would you call yourself true and living God and you molesting a child, whether it's mentally or physically? Either one are not good.
Yeah, because it's... Yeah, like even as an outsider, like you can see how important the children are, and that kind of environment, creating that kind of environment for the children, I'm assuming is something that most people...
They're not going to like that,
And in that respect, I'm the same. I say cut their balls off. And,
right.
But anyway...
But not to say that people in the 5% nation, when they're outside of our environment of the nation and say we go to work, I mean, there's homosexuals where I work at, there's lesbians, there's dykes, there's all kind of things that I don't consider savory. But since they're not using it on me, and they're not bleeding that on me, because when we're in the environment that we're in, we're basically working.
Because there's this sense that each god is a manifestation of the nation, and the nation is a manifestation of all the gods. And so your god, like your compatriot god's behavior reflects on you, and your behavior reflects on them. And that's where this sense of nationhood comes from. And so this unsavory behavior, whether it's pedophilia or homosexuality, reflects on every god and every earth just as much as it reflects on the individual. Which, when you leave the nation and bugger off, you can do what you want because it's no longer reflecting
on us.
It's
like we don't consider you should be running around here murdering people. You shouldn't be manslaughter, robbing, stealing. None of that shit they want. They don't trying to hear that. Like, you can't say, well, I'm an armed robber and I kill people that are over 6 feet and blonde hair. They'll be like, son, you can't stay with us doing that.
No, that's
why I'm killing them. And you might say something like, well, I'm killing the devil. Gee, that's not what we about. We not about killing nobody based on your philosophical understanding of what and who the devil is.
Yeah, for sure.
If a motherfucker run up on you and whooping your ass, defend yourself. But you just can't be like walking down the block killing people based on the shade of their skin, because now you're acting like the colonizer. That's what he did. He killed you based on the shade of your skin. He made a law based on the shade of your skin. He colonized your continent based on the shade of your skin, and now you want to do the same thing he did, even if it's to him. It's not right and exact. Because I do evil don't mean I want somebody, if a person does evil to me, I'm not supposed to actually do evil back to them as evil.
Because revenge and justice are two separate things.
They are.
And that's the difference between civilized and uncivilized.
If I'm killing someone because they're trying to kill me, I'm not just killing them because, oh, he tried to kill me 50 years ago and got away with it, and now he's a preacher. And I ain't forgot that. Nah, that's not how it works, son. I mean, you could do it because that's how you're living, but that's not what the nation advocates. We don't advocate pro or anti. We are pro-truth. What is the truth? And what is the truth to us and how we see it? Because I might say, this is my truth and this is how I see it. And you might say, well, that's not truth for me. Okay.
And that's so the one absolute that you really have is anti-devilishment and pro-righteousness.
Yeah, I could say that is one absolute we got.
And this is the thing, like, a few absolutes and a lot of flexibility creates a beautiful system of thought. A lot of absolutes and little
no
flexibility creates a broken machine.
It's hard to function in that because now, you don't have no wiggle room. Give me some wiggle room over here, please.
I know.
Like if you don't want sugar in your coffee, you should have the option.
If you don't want,
you want to drink it black or you want to drink it with cream and sugar, you should have the option. It shouldn't be like everybody must drink coffee at 2 o'clock. Come on, son, I don't want to drink mine at 2. Now I don't have any freedom. See, there go that freedom word.
That's also a very useful way of conceptualizing things. Right. What do you do if, like, who do you seek advice from? Like, if you have a crisis of consciousness of something, do you?
I call my comrades.
Right. That's fine. That's what I thought.
I might go talk to the older guards because it gets to a point where, like, I consider myself a counselor for the nation. I do my best to set the record straight. The younger guards, they come to me to ask me certain things in the teachings and how I see it. Now, they may not see it exactly how I see it, even after I explain to them how I see it, but they may want other point of views, the same way I might ask Umar, Dumar, Shasha, and Law B, and Law C, and King Asiatic, or Josh Amel, or any of them. I may go up to a Law Sincere and say, look, how do you see this? Not saying that I'm going to agree with him, but I want to see what's his C on it. I'm going to ask you, like, what's your C on this? Like when we was talking about Michael Knight, you was telling me how you saw his progress and the things that he was doing, and by you showing me or sharing that with me, it gave me a different C because I didn't know he was doing that, and I had no idea that was taking place. So
that's
cross-referencing is good.
I as I said, like, some of these things I assumed I might know your answer, or the general direction of it, but I need these things for the record because I haven't explicitly asked you. A lot of the sort of terms that the 5% use come from Islam.
True.
Whether they're used in the same way is not really, like, I know that they're not. But I guess the thing that I'm interested in is why Islam and not something else. Like, why Islam?
Why is not Hebrew?
Why not Hebrew? Why not Confucianism? Why not the animism of sort of the Yoruba people? Why was it Islam?
Well, you'd have to look at history and say, okay, the major players in the wilderness of North America.
Right.
Makes me think of February 20th, 1934, but that's just a deal with 120. But those men, those major players, Noble Drew Ali, C. Kirkman Bey, W.D. Farad, or Farad Muhammad, Wali Farad, Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They say them. That's what you ever see THEM with a period in back of each. That's what they're saying. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? The Father Allah, our Father. These are the tools that He gave us to work with. So if I was a mechanic, I may work with metal. If I'm a carpenter, I'll work with wood. But either way, I'm going to need tools. He gave us those tools. Melchizedek and them, under the Chez Nation, their tools they use is Hebrew tools. Masonry, they got Masonic tools. Every different order, nation, group, have whatever tools they have.
The Zulu lessons of...
Right.
Right.
So our tools just happen to be those tools, even though the orthodox world would say your tools aren't the same as my tools. And I would agree with you, but they just happen to have the same name. In other words, when I worked at Pac-Horn Foundry, they have a hammer that you use to shape metal. Well, this hammer is about as big as this Starbucks that we're in. It's a big fucking hammer. But when you think of hammer in your head, you think of that little hammer that you use in your hand. But yet they both have the same name, hammer.
But
so right. So that's the point I'm making is, we use the word Islam, we use the word Allah, but our law and our hammer and our Islam is not the same as, say, Orthodox Muslims.
And the different tool sets between sort of, what do you think, this is an aside, but I would be interested, and the record's great, what do you think of Malachi York?
Malachi Z. York, also known as Imam Isa. I don't think about him.
Right.
That's what I don't.
You don't have to answer if you don't wish to.
No, I don't mind answering. What it is Malachi. I don't know Malachi Z. York in the personal sense as far as what he did in Atlanta for the Europeans to give him 120 years in prison, because I wasn't physically there. I could tell you the stories, but you could do your own research and find those out too.
I know those, and I'm actually not interested in them.
Right.
I'm
now I knew him from a point of view of when he was Imam Isa on Flatbush. And when he was in Bushwick, and they were all white then, and they was called the Ansarul community, and they were Islamic Hebrew type whatever.
But they also used lessons very similar to your own.
They did a lot of stuff that's similar to us, as well as they did stuff that was similar to the Moors, to the Masons, to the Orthodox Muslims, to the Hebrews. So they had a lot of different similarities in a lot of different other groups. But his way of presenting it wasn't conducive to me. So that's why all I did with them was take Shahada.
Oh, so you actually had...
I had interaction with them.
Right.
His brother, Imam Baba, runs the African Islamic Mission. My baby's mother and my physical brother both worked there for him in the filing system, the computers, IT, and all that. They did that for him.
Right.
I worked down the block from his mission, which I worked at Bethany Atlantic in those days. So when they would have their gatherings, of course, my earth would be invited and I would go. So I know Imam Baba and his African Islamic mission. I know Imam Isa because I would visit them, and they were brothers. They're biological brothers. Imam Baba's the older brother. So they had interaction with each other, and of course I had interaction with them too, but not from the point of view as him being my cult leader or him being my spiritual guide or whatever. We were more like, I know him, I know the grandmother, I know the whole nine. I'm going to give many stories about the grandmother, how she ruled with an iron hand and all of that. We know them from that point of view. The people in his congregation know him from another point of view.
Definitely, like a charismatic leader.
Right. Now, I'm not saying he was a stupid man. I think he was a very highly intelligent man.
So do I.
And I don't know if the government bagged him because they thought he was doing good, or if they bagged him because he was doing bad.
And you'll never know.
And I wasn't there. All I know is he's.
And look, even if you were, you may never know.
Right.
Because that's the nature of it. Like, no, I wasn't fishing for that kind of
but I'm just saying
thing.
The reason why I was looking at him from that point of view is because just like Farrakhan, I think Farrakhan does what he does because he is who he is. But I'm not trying to be in his nation.
I'm
not trying to join his organization either.
No, because I actually came across them because in my sort of very early stages of research, a lot of the stuff that was written by him,
he wrote mad books.
He wrote mad books, and they had a definite 5% feeling, and it actually took me, like, it didn't take a lot of research.
Remember, he met the father. The father touched a lot of people. So he touched him too.
For sure.
So everybody he touched get a piece of his light. Is not, you can't do anything about it. He was that charismatic and had that much influence over people. When they would sit down and talk to him, they walked away with a piece of him in them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that happened to him.
No, and that's and that I suppose relates to what you were saying earlier about a similar struggle, a similar journey, but a different set of tools with all of these different groups. And so it's not surprising that if Malachi York was on a similar kind of journey and was trying to give that journey to his followers, that he wouldn't borrow from all of these different sets of tools. But yeah, like I've got quite a few of his books actually that are now becoming more and more valuable thanks to this controversy. And yeah, I was just interested in his teachings. Like I'm completely indifferent to that Atlanta business. It's between him and the universe or him and God or whatever, and he has to live with that. But just because he's been thrown in jail, I don't necessarily take to mean anything.
Right, I don't say that because he's in jail that he was guilty or he's innocent.
Yeah.
Like when Nakeem went to, very good friend of mine, Nakeem went, after he'd already been sentenced and everything, they were trying to do an appeal, and they know that me, Nakeem, and a few of us went to school for that law, civil and criminal law, and we're not what I would say per se lawyers under the bar, but I could write a brief just as good as Gildan Shapiro or Zellin as any of them because I've done it, criminal or civil. But they went to him and he did what he could, and but as you can see, Imam Isa's still in the P-Down institution.
Yeah. No, and as I said, like I suppose this is a sort of similarity to the 5% in terms of faith. I don't have that much faith in the institutions of so-called justice.
I'm afraid of them. Not the sense that I'm scared, but I'm afraid that they don't totally try to imprison the guilty and make sure that the innocent are free. They more like on a quota system, like give me these, I give you these. They can
about
care
power,
less.
not about justice.
They can care less if you're innocent because there's too many innocent people in jail.
That's completely.
Makes me think of Mumia. Is he really guilty or he isn't? I wasn't there, but a lot of people question this government and they don't even give a fuck when the people, the citizens say, we don't think that's right and exact. We want you to open up an investigation. They say, fuck you, we're not doing anything. When the people said they didn't bear witness to the World Trade Center thing, they want you to open up an investigation and re-look at that. They said, fuck you, we ain't doing that.
Yeah. Oh, and then you look at other instances where it's obvious that someone is terribly guilty of something terrible, like the Patrice Lumumba butchering, basically, and you get an official apology 35 years later from Belgium, and no one's accountable. So, do you know what I mean? Like, just when you've got someone who's as guilty as sin on one hand, and someone who's their guilt is questionable, yeah, there's too much of a disparity between the sort of the self-proclaimed mission of the justice system and its outcomes. For my
like who's responsible for the poisoning of the water hose in Tanzania? I mean, come on, give me a fucking break over here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely.
Wounded Knee. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. El Hidalgo and that other movie, The Last Samurai. It's not the movie of The Last Samurai or him running that horse. Look at that part that makes him become that.
Yeah.
When he went to Wounded Knee and he saw all of that take place. That's what I'm talking about. Like that movie Three Kings. That movie Three Kings was alright, but the part that caught me was when the Arab was talking to that European. He was saying, look what your people did to Michael Jackson. Y'all make him cut his face. Check that movie out, man. That's some deep shit. Psychological damage can do more than physical damage.
Yeah, of course.
Chop my leg off, I know it's going.
That's why there's terrorism. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's psychological.
Yeah, the statistical probability of dying in a terrorist attack is minuscule. I think you're more likely to die of a lightning strike 30 times. Like, it needs to hit you 30 times.
Yes.
And that's the same statistical probability.
For the terrorist.
Yeah, it's non-existent.
It is crazy. crazy.
But then, like,
They play on it.
all you need to do is walk around New York.
I showed you. Seen all the motherfucking. Those ain't police. Those are soldiers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They straight armies. You know, Screaming Eagles, 147 Combat Support, all of that. Airborne, 82nd, 101.
Oh, you might be able to tell me, because I have no idea what it was. I was walking along Nostrad Avenue in Brooklyn, just near Flatbush.
Yes.
Right? And there's this police emplacement there.
Like a truck.
No. This thing is, I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's basically like you know what it reminds me of? You know, like a medieval siege tower.
They had those all over Brooklyn with the big giant lights.
Yeah, and it's like it's like this big ball sort of thing.
Yeah.
Little like
with the cameras on it.
Yeah, nest, and I think I think you can put a gunman in there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it's on like this kind of collapsible.
I know what you mean. They have another one on 54th Street in Queens. They're all over strategically in certain positions where they think that, quote unquote, the black people are a little unruly.
Because that's the impression I got. Because the area that I live in,
Howard Beach.
You know, this is the thing. Like I didn't see them in.
It's not in Bensonhurst.
Yeah.
It'd be on Nostrand and Atlantic in that area.
Yeah,
Bedford and Atlantic. St. Mark's. It'd be in those kind of areas.
Yeah, because
Right.
like, I've
It'd
never.
be in East New York, Pennsylvania Avenue. There's one over there.
To me, it looks like.
There's one on Euclid on Pickens.
So it's basically in case there's a riot or something.
Right, black, Puerto Rican, Dominican, those groups.
Yeah.
Not per se just exclusively, but in New York you mostly got Dominican, Puerto Rican, all different kind of black people. Like they may be from Jamaica.
Yeah, that's the area that I live in.
Right, you're in the area where it's a lot of Jamaican, West Indian,
Barbados,
Trinidad, Barbados.
Yeah.
Right, Panamanians are there, that area.
Because the other thing they've got is they've got like all of these police things that I've never seen before. Like they've got individual little armoured cars.
Yes.
With 3 wheels. Mm-hmm. And if I was really pissed off, I could probably push it over. Like,
yes.
But I think like it must
be top heavy.
But it must be bulletproof and like because like they never leave them. Like they just sit there in them and they're like all over the place. Mm-hmm. But I've only ever seen them around where I live.
And I don't think they're bulletproof.
Really? Then they're just retarded. They look like little clown cars or something.
They're not bulletproof. I'm pretty sure they're not.
Yeah, that's crazy then. Because they're not, because they're kind of cute. Like I would like to get one for my sister. Because she would love to drive around.
Yes, it looked like something a girl would drive in.
Yeah, like
I know, I've seen it. Or a mailman.
Yeah, but I just assumed it was because they wanted to have like a really strong police presence because they're only there Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah. You noticed that, right?
Yeah, and
Thursday sometime too.
But they roll them out like in the area that I live in, and I have heard the odd gunshot.
Because that's where the parties are at.
Yeah, because white people can't have fun. But yeah, like I was shocked because I just don't see police around that often, and they're everywhere. Like the only place
National Guard is everywhere too.
The only other place in New York that I've seen such a density of police
is Manhattan.
Harlem.
Well, Harlem is Manhattan, but that's a part of Manhattan.
Well, when I first arrived here, I was in Gramercy.
Okay.
No cops.
None.
A lot of white people walking dogs in coats. But it was, like it wasn't the same as Harlem at all.
Let's go out to Brentwood, same shit.
Yeah, so because I wanted to know what they were, and there was a couple of cops sitting in a cop car at the base of it, and I walked over there and I was going to ask them, and then I thought, no, I don't think I want to do that.
You don't want them to take you as a sympathizer.
Well, this is basically what I thought, and they look like a pair of assholes.
Yeah, if they consider you a sympathizer, you become the enemy automatic.
Well, I was going to play the dumb tourist.
Now that will work. They like y'all.
Yeah, because I was just going to say, look, I'm from Australia.
And once you say that, they're going to be open to help you learn.
And I was just like, yeah, because I wasn't going to say, like, what's this oppressive tool of totalitarianism? vegetarianism.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'd be thinking.
They be arresting your ass.
But yeah, because do you know what I mean? It looks like something military. It didn't look like police to me. But like a lot of police in Australia they're not even allowed to carry guns.
Yeah, y'all got that English kind of rule.
Yeah, where it's tasers, pepper spray, and batons.
Right. These police here put a bullet in your ass with a quickness.
Yeah,
They'll shoot you down. 41 shots. You'll be laying on the ground with looking like Swiss cheese.
yeah. Where was it? There was someone in I think South Bronx, unarmed 18-year-old.
41 shots. They shot him on the bottom of his feet.
Yeah, and it was his back.
Well, what happened when he shot him? He fell down. When he fell down, they kept shooting. That's why the coroner kept saying, "How did the bullet
Get in the base of his face.
foot and go up into his knees and everything?" They were trying to say how did that happen? And then the guy said, and then they was like, when they did all that, it was like, oh, he fell down and y'all just kept shooting. Even after he was laying down dead, y'all just shot him while he was dead. Y'all just kept shooting him. Shooting him all up in his ass and everywhere.
Yeah, anyway.
Off the hook. I mean, it ain't funny, but at the same time, you say to yourself, is this going on in America?
Is it going on fucking anywhere? Like, we're supposed to be a little bit more... Anyway.
We're supposed to be a little more civilized.
Yeah.
The police don't act like they're civilized.
Alright, yeah, that's pretty much everything, really.
Good.
Yeah, I'll stop that.
I'll stop this one. Peace.